Alright folks, here's how I'm going to record all my information about conflict that I'm supposed to be finding. So this you'll recognize as the plot pyramid. I know, beautiful drawing. So you should have a copy of this somewhere in your notebook. If you don't, I'll talk you through this one. It's also super easy to just Google if you look that up. Okay, so the first requirement is what is the conflict. So once you get to it, write it down. I left 2 lines so that I have what's the actual conflict of this play and what type of conflict that is. Is it person versus person versus society, versus nature, versus self? All right, so then the other thing that you're required to do in the directions is how is it introduced. So I'm not just going to write it down, but I'm going to write down some information, probably in this area. When this conflict gets introduced, where does it come up? Why is it a problem? Who's involved? All that stuff. So I'm going to fill in details. Let's just go. When, where, that type of stuff. Because those are pieces of evidence, I'm probably going to use times, like times in the movie, or if you're reading along, you can use act and scene where they come up. All right, so then next, you're going to fill in what are some of the events that the author uses to intensify that conflict. So I'm going to, on these lines, write down what are some of the things that are happening. Once we know that this conflict is going on, what are the things that intensify that conflict to a point where we can't turn back anymore. It's reached a point where this conflict, we can't walk it back. So we also needed to know who's involved in this conflict. So we have the 2 sides that are involved in the conflict. There's friends, there's supporters, there's mentors, there's servants, there's the nurse. So there's all these different people involved in the conflict, and you want to be able to explain how each of those people is involved. So some of those might come up here because they're making the conflict more intense. Some of them may just be related to the conflict. So if that's the case, I might put them here. So like who, looking at my foot. Who else is involved in the conflict? So then I'm going to explain in 1 or 2 sentences what the climax of that conflict is. When it reaches a point where it is so intense and there's some kind of breaking point, we can't go back anymore, I want to be able to explain that in a couple of sentences. So I'm going to make a box here, just so it's clear that it's connected, and I'm going to write it there. Then once I have that taken care of, I know what the climax is, then I have the falling action. So whatever steps happen, whatever the author includes that shows, okay, now the conflict is calming down or being settled in some way. And then finally, at the very end, we have the resolution. How does the author resolve it? Sometimes in literature, we talk about it kind of being like putting a bow on it. How does the author tie it all together and give us something to think about now that we've finished this text? All right, so in terms of conflict, that's what you're going to be filling in. Again, you'll notice very much not a beautiful page of notes. If you really like how your notes look, and that's important to you, feel free to take more time, but what's important is that you're able to express all these ideas, not what it looks like. So make sure you're using your notes so that you can talk about that. All right, let me know if you have any questions.